combined. Please welcome the golden boy himself, world champion, Oscar De La Hoya. With us also this evening, his friend and my former patient, model and actress Jennifer Gimenez, who's also a recovering person and spokesperson for the KLEAN Center. All right, so Oscar, we're going to start this conversation talking a little bit about Whitney, and then we're going to go wherever we go. Did you have anything go through your mind when you heard that Whitney Houston had died?
What went through my mind was just feeling so bad for her, feeling bad for her kid. You know, it's like now that I'm a recovering alcoholic, I can see it coming. You know, you hear about these stories, especially with celebrities, because I mean, yeah, it's public, and you can see it coming, and you're praying that somebody please help them. You know, somebody around them, please help them. And you know, I woke up.
You're saying something very powerful because Jennifer sees it coming. I see it coming.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, we see that. We can see some other ones. You know, you see them circling the drain. Did somebody speak up to you, or was it just your own hitting bottom, or did people speak up and you didn't listen?
You know, I actually had a high bottom, and what I mean is that I started drinking when I was 8, actually, and it's been a blackout ever since then.
Can you imagine?
And yeah,
I'm so sorry. It like breaks my heart.
We hear it a lot. We hear most 8-year-olds start, 8 to 11-year-olds start with pot. That's usually the drug. It's somehow alcohol. How'd you get alcohol at 8 years of age?
Well, family.
It's just there.
Family function. It was there.
Yeah.
I guess part of our culture. It's like you go to the family functions during the weekend. The men go to the back. The women are in the kitchen, and they told little Oscar, "Why don't you get us some beer?" And you know, every time I got a beer, I would have a sip. So after 30 or 40 runs of those, 40 sips, then I'm just out of it. And so that was my first experience when I fell in love with alcohol. And ever since then, it's like I've now realized that I've been trapped. I've been trapped for all those years, and I'm finally just coming out of that shell. And I can take myself back now and look at everything, and it's like, wow, I mean, how did this happen to me? Why did it happen to me? And I understand it. It was lack of education, lack of being educated on what alcoholism is.
Well, let's help people understand it, because this is our chance to do that, right? To educate. And what's interesting is there's Oscar, and then there's Oscar the alcoholic, and they're very different, right?
Right.
They're the same person, but they function very differently.
Right.
And when you're in the alcoholism, a lot of other stuff gets going. Relationships, sex, other substances, sometimes sort of illicit behaviors, right? You're always hiding and shaming and stuff.
Of course.
Well, you say of course, but I don't think people understand that out there. We say of course. Yeah. But can you help people understand who are dealing with the alcoholic, let's say we're dealing with the alcoholic Oscar, who are angry with them and blaming them? You understand? I see a different person. I see a person whose brain isn't working right when I see that. How do we help people understand that?
Well, look, it's like, for instance, let's take my marriage. I've been married for 10 years, but I've only been in a relationship for 289 days, which is my sobriety date, you know, because I've been there, I've been present, not just physically, because I was always there physically, especially now for my 2 little kids. But I was never there emotionally, and so we're never there. We're always thinking of something else. We're always thinking of that next drink, or we're always out of it thinking about something else, something to do, and you know, it affects everyone around us. It affects us, you know, and
absolutely.
It's not a good life to live.
And go ahead, Jennifer.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I remember a lot in the beginning of my sobriety, when I was being treated by you, you used to tell me that I was suffering from sex and love addiction as well, and I was like, I'm not a sex addict, you know, and get so mad about it. And I normally don't talk about this, but I remember like not being able to be present with people who love me, let alone intimate relationships like another part of my partner. But even with family members, like I always was like suffering from that. Like, did you find that?
You know, I've never had a relationship with anybody, including myself. And I'm finding now that all the family members, and I have a big family, that I stopped talking to many years ago, my kids that I stopped talking to many years ago, because I was just self-centered. I was just so into myself. It was all about me, 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 and me. Now it's like, I mean, now it's being a recovering alcoholic, it's like now I'm realizing just how to live. I'm a baby and I'm learning how to live the right way. I was telling you that in the dressing room that it's like I ran a 30-mile marathon the wrong direction. So now I got to come back from the start and run that marathon in the right direction. So it's a good way to live, let me tell you.
Well, Oscar, you're raising a lot of profound issues in here. One is you said that you fell in love with alcohol at the beginning, and that's I think that the codependents, people around the addict alcoholic have trouble accepting that you love it. You love it as much or better than anything else in your life, because a non-alcoholic addict doesn't have that experience. They can't imagine that. There's that on one hand. The other issue is this first year. People want to be healed in the month of treatment from alcoholism and recovery. Can you talk about how fragile that first even that first 3 years is, and how it feels to be a newbie, a newborn baby into the world?
Well, listen, look, I mean, I've been in there with the best fighters on the planet. I've been able to capture gold medal and world titles and this and that, but this is the toughest fight of my life. You know, it's like I've in the first 3 months, I was going crazy with myself, wanting to drink, just wanting to drink. And what saved me was obviously the support of my family, and obviously the support of my fellowship and the meetings. It's not easy, and nothing's easy that is, if that reward is really, really good for you, it's not going to be easy. You have to work at it. You know, it's a job. I mean, if you want to keep your job, you have to work.
Well, this is, again, Jennifer, you'll appreciate this. I got only a few seconds here, but that because it's your job, it's your full-time preoccupation and occupation, particularly for the first 6 to 12 months, which is why if you go work, you do other things, which I always tell celebrities, you're going to go out on the road, it takes you away from your job. You can do it, and you can probably even white knuckle and stay sober, but you aren't progressing, you're not developing, because it is so fragile. It is such a delicate process, isn't it?
It's interesting, I'm sorry, it's interesting because I was telling Dr. Drew last week when you and I started like texting and tweeting and stuff about things, is that there's a difference. You can see the people who are going to make it in the beginning of the recovery is when you dive in and you're like fighting for your life, like you were saying. You're amongst the fellowship. You're amongst that. You don't worry about the outside stuff. You worry about the inside stuff, and that's what you're doing. And I'm like so blown away. I was telling you that, Dr. Drew, in the dressing room last week.
I can notice myself changing if I don't go to a meeting for 3-4 days. I can notice myself changing.
Your thinking.
And my thinking and preoccupied and okay. Maybe if I sneak away somewhere, maybe if I go anywhere. See, because I can drink whenever I want. When I don't go to meetings, then I'll pick up and take that drink. But if I keep going to meetings and just keep being of service, you know, to somebody else, then I will stay sober.
I'm so happy for you. You're singing the tune that I know is a miracle. It is a miracle, and people end up glorious with that. But they can go pretty far down. Okay, when we come back, more with Oscar and Jennifer, and talk a little about that high bottom. And later, are Rihanna and Chris Brown back together again? Now, given their history, I'm concerned about that. It's kind of a complicated issue, so we'll talk about that. Stay with us.